Contempt is a killer. It's killer in life, and it's killer in business, and quite frankly, it's a killer in relationships. When you have contempt for somebody else, you think you're here and they're here. I remember it like it was yesterday. I can see myself roughly around 15 years ago. I'm in our product development meeting. Now, this is a meeting where a lot of the magic happens at Vortex. We discuss, we propose, we argue and wrestle with each other on the products that we're going to be rolling out in the next year and the coming years. So we make good decisions in there. It's going to go well for our company, for our dealers, and for our customers. If we make the wrong decisions in there, down the road, we're going to really suffer for it. Now, on this particular day, I was bringing in a suggestion. Now, in our binocular series, we have different series at different price points because we want to be able to service our customers, wherever they're at from a pricing perspective. And we had one series in particular where we had a couple configurations we didn't have in any of the other series. And this one was a 10 by 50 binocular. Now, everybody in the company knew that the 10 by 42 was our number one seller. But years previously, when we were more in the birding market, the 8 by 42 was the best seller. And so I thought 10 by 42 is number one, 8 by 42 is number two. And in this particular series where we had a 10 and a 12 by 50 binocular and even some other configurations as well, I thought that 10 by 50 was performing really well. I had heard it in meetings with buyers. I had seen the purchase orders coming in. And my suggestion, my gut suggestion, my feel suggestion, which I just love, was to take that 10 by 50 and plug it into one other series that we had. Not all the series, just one. Because after all, I thought, hey, we had a little bit of a win here. Let's just take a baby step and let's move it over here. So as I'm telling this suggestion, there's a woman to my right who has not been in the company very long, mind you. Now, this woman had absolutely zero in the field experience. And what I mean by that is she wasn't a hunter, she wasn't a birder. I don't even know if she knew which end to look through on the binocular. In addition to that, up to that point, she'd never actually been in a meeting with a buyer. After all, I had been in hundreds of those. And we had a lot of people in that meeting who had forgot more about hunting or shooting or bird watching than even I knew at the time, let alone her. Well, her fingers are going as fast as you can think on that keyboard on her laptop. And as soon as I finish my idea, and I'm waiting for everybody to kind of dogpile on that or either kind of say, it's a good idea, it's a bad idea, etc. And most people were nodding their head. They thought, yeah, this is an easy one, we ought to do it. Well, she turns her laptop to me, and what she shows me pretty much knocked me over at that time. Now, keep in mind, roughly like 15 years ago, big data wasn't a thing. Slicing and dicing things on pivot tables, I mean, some people were doing it, but it wasn't nearly as big of a thing as it is today. So when I look at her laptop screen, what I see is that series that we had those 10 and 12 by 50s. And what I see is that the 1042 is number one. Okay, good job, had that right. Number two isn't the 8 by 42. It isn't even the 10 by 50. It's the 12 by 50. Number three is the 10 by 50. And number four is the 8 by 42. Okay, she's got a little smirk on her face. I'm starting to smile too because my idea all of a sudden shifted. Okay, my idea shifted from not just adding the 10 by 50 into one series of binoculars. After all, we had 4 or 5 back then. We might have 7 now. My idea shifted into let's do the 10 and 12 by 50 and not just in one series, in all of our series. And after all, why should we do that? Well, I probably didn't. People couldn't see it on her laptop, but I just told them the data that was on her screen. And so sure enough, that's what we did. We added a 10 and a 12 by 50 into every series of our binoculars. And instead of maybe adding $1 million or $2 million to the revenue, we added over $10 million to our revenue. But even more importantly, because it's not just the number, it's how we get there. We got there because we were able to better serve our customers and our dealers, because after all, they wanted those configurations. Now let's just unpack what just happened there, okay? What just happened was you have two people with complementary strengths. Okay, you had me with a lot of the experience, a lot of in the field knowledge and gut feel, okay? But then you also had somebody who had the strengths of data, of analytics, okay? And being able to slice and dice that data, all right? Now, she wasn't saying you're an idiot. And certainly when she gave me the data, I wasn't like, hey, get back to me once you've seen the field, lady, okay? Neither of us did that. And the reason is there was a great deal of respect there. So complementary strengths, high degree of respect, that's where the magic happens, all right? Then we got a brilliant idea that really helped our customers, our dealers, and it helped us. After all, when you're able to produce more revenue and more profit, you're able to shower that on your employees and your dealers and your customers. Everything gets better. Let me give you another example. For years, I would go to visit retailers and I would spend some time with the buyers. Now, when we were brand new, and those buyers look at your brand thinking, am I going to bring you in? Oftentimes they would bring in their technical expert. Okay, this is a technical in the field expert. They're interested in turrets and click feel and lens quality and lens coatings. And I mean, every technical spec feature you could think of. Now, I know enough of that to be dangerous, but we have people here who have forgot more about that than I'll ever know. And in this particular case, Paul Neese, who's still with us today over 25 years, this guy, great guy. He's incredible in the field. He's an incredible hunter, shooter, and he also is incredible when it comes to technical specs. So I would bring him on these visits with these retailers. I would deal with the buyer. We'd be talking about margins and turns and lead times, and we'd be discussing Black Friday specials and things like that. And Paul would be handling their technical expert. Now, I could have just came to those meetings with my big ego and say, no, I don't want to bring anybody there. I got the technical specs. I'll handle that guy, and I'll handle the buyer too, all right? But fortunately, I'm not sure exactly why, my ego must have been crushed much earlier in my life, but I knew, hey, we're way better off if Paul comes with me. The reason being is we have complementary strengths. And when we have complementary strengths and there's a great deal of respect, that's where the magic happens. And surprise, surprise, those retailers gave us a shot. Yes, I think a big part was the quality of products and other things, but I think a big part of it was the presentation of these complementary pieces. And at Vortex, we call that the complementary edge, okay? So when we have meetings, when we're making decisions, I know for me and the other leaders, I absolutely want to force complementary pieces together that have a high deal of respect. So that product development meeting now, there's a lot of people in there from a lot of different parts and pieces of our company. You've got people that are obviously in our product team. You've got marketing folks. You've got product marketing folks. You've got supply chain. That woman that I was referring to earlier, that first story, she just so happened to be supply chain. You've got other leadership positions in there. You have all these complementary pieces in there, and they have a great deal of respect. In fact, okay, when we go back to our flywheel and we go back to dialed in, the first part of our flywheel, the reason the complementary edge fits in there is because we're hiring for it. I don't just want somebody who's got the strength, but they don't have the respect of people with complementary strengths. In fact, that's a huge blind spot to think that you have every strength that's there. You don't. Also, we shouldn't make caricatures out of people and say, well, I'm an in-the-field guy, so I don't know diddly-poo about data. Or vice versa, I'm a data person, I don't know diddly-poo about that. We don't want to look at people as caricatures And we don't want to think of ourselves that way. But we also don't want to lead with our ego, because the ego is the enemy, okay? And we don't want to think, I've got it all, because you don't have it all. We all have blind spots. So we're hiring for people who understand they have a blind spot, and they love people with complementary strengths. They have a great deal of respect for people with complementary strengths. Now let's contrast that. Let's contrast that with contempt, okay? Contempt is thinking that somebody else is beneath you, okay? And contempt is a killer. It's killer in life, and it's killer in business, and quite frankly, it's a killer in relationships. When you have contempt for somebody else, you think you're here and they're here. So let's go back to those stories, okay? I'm telling my idea about the 10 by 50. She's clickety-clacking away. She shows me her screen. I don't even look at it. Why should I look at it? She's only been here for 15 minutes. She's never been in the field. She doesn't have the experience in those rooms, okay? She's never shot something. She barely knows which end of the binocular to look through. How would that have worked out? Well, we probably would have had the 10 by 50 to one series of binoculars, and maybe we would have seen a little bit of a bump. And worse yet, I probably would have felt good about it, okay? But we would have missed out on a lot. Instead, I got to give myself a little bit of credit. I was curious, and of course, I knew enough about her to know she was really smart as a whip, okay? And I at least looked at and evaluated and saw that my idea was okay. What she was giving me was a silver bullet to an incredible idea. Let's shift over to Paul. What if Paul goes in there? What if we're in there and Paul just slays it with the technical guy, and the buyer's going on and on about how great Paul is, and we get the order? That's a good thing. But if my ego's in the way, it's a bad thing, right? Because it should be more about me. No. It shouldn't be about me. It should be about us. It should be about what we're trying to achieve. Okay? And bringing Paul there, and let me tell you something, he did slay him. The technical guy, next thing I know, they're like best friends and they're planning their hunt together, okay? And everybody loved Paul. He was a huge catalyst in a lot of things. We could do a whole podcast on Paul, but he was certainly a big catalyst there. There was no contempt. I didn't think, well, Paul doesn't know the margins as good as I do. Paul's not planning the Black Friday special. He's not planning the fall hunting promotions. What does he know? He's just a guy in the field who likes to hunt and knows a lot of technical stuff. I didn't think that. And conversely with Paul, he didn't think, who's this bozo Joe, I've probably forgot more about hunting than this guy knows. No. Complementary strengths, a great deal of respect, and no contempt. So, what can you do? What can you do to deploy the complementary edge? Here's what you can do. First of all, hire for it. Hire for not only complementary strengths, because realistically, you already know that. When you're hiring for supply chain, you're already hiring for those skills. When you're hiring for sales, you're already hiring for those skills. Here's a skill that you need to hire for, is the fact that people have a great deal of respect for other people that complement them. Hire people who already believe that they need a compliment, okay? That they need a compliment. Don't hire people who have contempt, all right? You need to adjust your interviewing to find that out. Now, if you just so happen to get somebody with contempt, you need to have some difficult conversations, okay? You may need to talk to them about, hey, you might get disinvited from this meeting because you don't have a high deal of respect for the people who compliment you. And you may get disinvited from this company, okay? It's not just who we hire, it's also what we tolerate, okay? So hire and fire for people who have a great deal of respect for people with complementary strengths. Here's another thing. Maybe you're not a leader. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't hire people. Here's what you need to do. Put a 10 on everybody's forehead, as in a 10 out of 10, okay? Right here on their forehead, put a 10. View them as a 10, because here's the thing. Where attention goes, energy flows. Where attention goes, energy flows. So if you're giving attention to them and you're seeing them as a 1, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get a 1. If you're looking hard enough for something, you're going to find it. But if instead you flip that and put a 10 on their forehead and your attention goes there, your energy is going to go there, and now you're going to begin to see their strengths. Get curious. Get curious about another person. Try to understand what they bring to the table better. All right, one of the biggest things that has made Vortex, we've gone from zero and we've gone to the largest sport optics brand that has ever existed, okay? And I am proud about that, but what I'm really proud about is how we got there. And one of the biggest catalysts for us getting there is getting complementary pieces together where we had a great deal of respect for one another. And that's where the magic happens, okay? Elevate respect, elevate complementary strengths, kill contempt, okay? And deploy the complementary edge. I'm gonna leave you with one more thing. The biggest wins don't come from the best ideas. The biggest wins come from ideas colliding with complementary strengths. And we call that the complementary edge. And that's what makes flywheels not only spin, but create unstoppable momentum. Listen, guys, movements are built on connection. If this resonated, share it and join the conversation. Hit that subscribe button or check the show notes where you can follow me on all my socials. Or check out more about the movement at vortexcare.com. Let's build something rare together.